The biggest battle we will ever have to face is the battle between you and you. It's the battle of taking your mind to that limit and then breaking through. On the Mindful Experiment podcast, we will share concepts, universal laws, and interviewing individuals who have done just that, who have gone through the dark times and through those moments allowed their light to shine bright. I'm your host, Dr. Vic Manzo, and I want to thank you for listening to the podcast and taking this journey with me as we discover different avenues to break through those limits, expand your reality, and evolve into the person you desire to be. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. What up, guys? This is Dr. Vic, and as always, this is a new episode on the Mindful Experiment, as I had the distinct pleasure to interview Taylor Rae from Strong Babe Collective. Her energy, her passion, her story of what she shares in this interview is just it's magnetizing, and it just pulls you in. And there's a lot of things we talked about that was just awesome. I had a lot of fun on the podcast, and just listening to her story, what she went through, her struggles. And it's funny sometimes when I interview people, we have similar stories in some ways, or similar journeys, how she was one way in her fitness area, and then all of a sudden she made shifts in gears to go into the manifestation route. And, as myself being a chiropractor for the last 8-9 years, and, making this shift to become this transformational mindset coach and so forth, and still be the chiropractor, but do that on the other side of that. I know the struggles of what it took. So it was really cool to see the synchronicity to these stories. And so we dive in. Taylor Rae is the Strong Babe Collective, and she really helps women, babes, as it's coined in term, to really help transform their life, how to desire to manifest, really how to learn how to. And she does something called the creation method, and we dive into that a lot and talk about manifestation and so much more in the second half of the show. So really great to have interviewed her, and her passion and her excitement. I know you're going to get a lot of nuggets out of this. So make sure you're taking a pen and paper and write out as she shares some beautiful things of what you can do in your life to really help you, 1, manifest, number 2, how to keep yourself on track, and number 3, trust the universe and know it's always working for you. So let's go ahead and let's jump into this amazing interview with Taylor Rae from Strong Babe Collective. Well, I want to first welcome to the show Taylor Rae from Strong Babe Collective. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And I know you had to get up a little early to do this recording, so I want to commend you also for that, and being able to take some time and share your story and all that you're up to and what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's bright and early over here in Australia, but it's lovely. It's very sunny today, so very happy to be up for this awesome morning.
I always find that interesting because the day you're a day ahead of me right now.
Yes.
And so yes. I was always like, I wonder how's the day looking for you? I think it's Thursday, right, over by you, versus by Wednesday. And let me know what Thursday is going to look like.
Yeah, I'll give you a heads up so you know what to expect.
I appreciate that. So. Awesome stuff. I've been checking out. I do my homework, and really cool just what you're doing, what you're up to. You seem to just like it'd be an awesome individual, amazing soul. So I wanted to have you on and just chime into what you're up to and what you're doing, but also to kind of share how it all begins, because I truly believe we all have a story, and in life experiences kind of bumps us and nudges us. And I know you being a manifestation coach, you can really attune to this and share that. But how did you become that? What's the storyline before that got you to where you are now?
Yeah, definitely. Amazing question. And it's something that I love to talk about because I so agree where, everything in your life happens for a reason, and the universe is always supporting you. Like, it's always directing you in a certain direction. But there was definitely a point in my life where I didn't know that. I didn't believe that to be true. And that goes back a fair while. But basically for me, so my whole journey sort of started with manifestation, with the law of attraction, starting Strong Babe Collective, basically because I went through the lowest point in my life. I sort of ended up going through, in a nutshell, a full-on breakdown, burnout. I pretty much just hit rock bottom after pushing myself way too hard for too long, running two other completely different businesses in the fitness space, both in like face-to-face fitness and in online fitness coaching. And I was in that sort of environment where I was working 70, 80 hours a week. It was my entire life. It's all that I thought about all the time. Business was everything to me, and I operated very much in my masculine energy as opposed to my feminine. And basically, I pushed to the point where my body couldn't really take it anymore. And there'd been a lot of signs along the way, a lot of little things that had come up that I had just pushed to the wayside. I had ignored them. And it just sort of got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. And I ended up going through massive injury. So I ended up tearing my rhomboid in my back, and I got dual bursitis in my shoulders. And I ended up through that, like pretty much just starting to like head into a space like with severe anxiety, panic attacks, and I just really wasn't coping anymore. And it was basically because I ignored everything that I sort of needed to be paying attention to in terms of what was actually good for me. I was just so consumed with hustling and grinding and like fighting towards these goals. And it was in going through all of that basically, you know, when you go through and you're a fitness instructor, you're somebody who for a living has spent, you know, a couple of years building a business around fitness, to suddenly not being able to do that anymore because my body physically couldn't. Like when I, you know, tore my rhomboid and stuff, like I couldn't do a push-up anymore. Like suddenly I couldn't even demonstrate what I was trying to teach people to do. And for me, it was like a loss of purpose. It was like suddenly it was just stripped away from me. And I was like, well, I've been building this for 2 years. Like, what am I if I'm not that? And I just remember for months sort of just like crying myself to sleep and just being so lost in what I was going to do, how I showed up anymore, what I was even doing. And it was in going through all of that, like as tough as it was, going through that, I look back on it now and I'm so grateful for it, because it was in that moment, it was in going through that, and I'll never forget it, that I was like walking from my lounge room into my kitchen and I literally stopped in my tracks, and it's like something spoke to me. And at the time I was not spiritual, I was not religious, like nothing like that. And so for me it was a really different thing. Like I was like, what the heck? Where has this come from? And basically, like looking back, like now I know it was my intuition, but at the time I had no idea. And it was like this voice that spoke to me and said, stop looking at why this is happening to you and start looking at why it is happening for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And so I started to change my view and I started to look at things differently, and everything that was happening, I started to look at why it was happening for me and, you know, what was going on and why that was sort of pushing me in a different direction. And, you know, maybe this is meant to be kind of thing. And that's how I started to open myself up to the whole world of law of attraction, manifestation, working with the universe, all of those sort of things. And I just shifted and started consuming everything differently and tried to learn as much as I could. And that's basically how the whole thing started. So, yeah, it sort of just took off from there.
Very cool story. And there's so much I want to dive in on this. And it's just, there's a lot of ahas. I mean, how did you feel when you had the muscle, you know, the rhomboid tear, you had the shoulder thing going on, the anxiety, and did you try things to like, because I know sometimes the mind gets in the way and it's kind of like, okay, no, I got to do this and I got to get this rehab. I'll do this and do that.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to get there. Were you in that state? And how many times did you like keep trying? Like, was it just one of those things where you're like, because I know you had the aha moment, which we'll get into with the intuition, but was it something that you're like, was it just, okay, this isn't working, I need to make a change? Or did you fight that and resist it a little bit?
Oh, I fought it for ages in the lead up to that. So there was I was hospitalized prior because I ended up just getting really, really sick. And all of it is like an accumulation of literally not looking after myself. Like if you asked me what my identity was, it would have been my business. Like I would have anxiety attacks on a Sunday because we'd go to see friends for a barbecue and I'd be so like, oh my gosh, my business, like there's things I need to be doing. I need to be ready for Monday, all of this stuff. And this was, you know, for months and months and months in the lead up to this like culmination of everything kind of just exploding. And I ended up in hospital at one point as well. And all I remember is like from hospital messaging all of my clients being like, don't worry, class will still be on tomorrow. It's fine. We'll just do it from my house instead of our normal location. You guys can come there. I'll run the class. Don't worry about it. And the girls like that were taking part in my class were like, are you sure? Like you're in hospital. It's going to be fine if we have a day off. But I was just so committed to, you know, I've got to show up for these girls and I've got to be there and I've got to run these classes and stuff. So I literally did it. Like I sat on a chair the next day after being in hospital and just was like, okay, like 20 more push-ups, keep going, like, you know, and sort of instructed it from a chair because I couldn't get up to do it. And like looking back, I'm like, were you crazy? Like, what is wrong with you? Like anybody listening is like, this girl is nuts. But that's who I was at the time. And yeah, I went through so much of that where I just ignored it. And my friends and family were like, Tay, like, can you please slow down? Like take a second. Like you are just burning it at both ends and it is going to catch up with you. And I was like, no, I'm fine. It's going to be fine. And obviously it wasn't. And that's where it really did just push past that point. And even when it sort of like went through with like the rhomboid and the bursitis and stuff, even then I was gearing up to compete in a powerlifting competition. Like that was all I cared about. And so for me, it was like, okay, let's go to physio. Let's start like repairing this. My physio was like, your body cannot cope. Like you can't now go and compete in powerlifting. Like that is like just not a good idea. And I did resist it for a while, but the more I went through it and the more I sort of like realized like there was so much more to life and so many other things that were important. And, you know, I started to be like, oh, okay, like, you know, maybe, you know, running this business and competing in powerlifting, that's not everything. Like there is more to life. And that was when I did start to sort of shift, I guess. And then that's when obviously at the same time, I did get that nudge from my intuition. And so I kind of did just accept it at that point because, you know, when you're at rock bottom and you've literally cried yourself to sleep like day in, day out, like my partner would leave for work in the morning and be like, are you okay today? And I'd be like, I'm good. And he'd come home and I'd be beside myself. And when you've been like that, like consistently day in, day out, when something shows up for you that sort of like gives you this alternative view as to like, okay, maybe this is actually a good thing, you kind of grab it with two hands and you run with it because you're like, okay, something's going to pull me out of this hole and I'm so ready for that. Yeah.
I love that. And I think you would agree. Did you have to get like sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Yes, definitely. I'd had enough. Like to me, it was like, well, if this is it, then anything is better.
You'll take the first thing that comes.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love it. And then when that moment came where you had your intuition kind of like speak to you in that, was it, I mean, I know it was foreign because you see you and so forth. Was it, did you have like an inner knowing though, that was like something speaking to you? Like it was like a comforting feeling, like it wasn't something to freak out about?
Yeah, definitely. Like so much. It was sort of like I just felt suddenly calm and suddenly at peace and was just kind of like, oh, okay. Hey, who are you? Like you. And then I don't know, like to me, it's sort of as I've gone through this journey, everything that I've learned as I've gone through, it's like it was always there in me. And it was even, to be honest, like even everything I do with manifestation and coaching and, you know, everything that I do in Strong Babe Collective, part of that was always in me, even in the businesses that I was running before, where it was a lot to do with mindset and empowerment and everything like that. And I look back on things in my life, like even as a kid, like things that I would do or things that I would say, and it ties in with what I do now and with everything that I know about manifestation and law of attraction and all of that. And it's amazing because it's like it was always there for me, but I just wasn't listening. It's like I just had blinkers on and I just wasn't paying attention at all to all of the support that was literally there the whole time.
I love that. Yeah. And it's funny how, you know, that you get these little nudges, and as you become more aware and you start reflecting on your life, which not a lot of people like to do, or don't take enough time doing, you go back and it's like one of those things where you start connecting the dots, light bulbs it's like a string of lights. That's how I visualize it. And it's just like, oh my God, that was there. Oh my goodness, that was here. Holy cow, this was here. And I love the realization you're having with that, in that process. Now, when it came to, because you made an identity, you had to change your identity a little bit, right? You said your identity was your business and so forth. How was that process? Because I know I'm a chiropractor, so I've been doing that for over 8 years. And now I'm still being a chiropractor and doing what I do, but I'm shifting gears because there's always this, the universe was showing me different things and nudges along the way. And now I'm taking them and running with them. And it's like, okay, I got this. But when you made the shift, was it easy to make that shift? Was it difficult? What was going through your mind as you had to shift identity from what you were as in the fitness realm, working 70 hours a week, your business and all these things, and then make that shift into Strong Babe Collective?
Yeah, such a good question. To be honest, it was just different. Like it was just, it was honestly like I suddenly sort of gave myself permission to be who I kind of had always wanted to be. And I started to do things that I'd always wanted to do, but it was odd. And I mean it down to like the littlest things where even, to take sort of an evening out and to do a face mask and, to just give myself a little bit of self-love, or to go and get my nails done, like all things like that were things that for so long I had put off because I lived in like a scarcity of time. Like I was this person who was 23 going on like 80 because for some reason I just believed that I did not have any time, and everything that I wanted to do, I was just running out of time to do it. And so for me, all of those little things around like self-love and, enjoying your life, like spending time with your loved ones, like going away for a weekend with my partner, like all of those sort of things started to become really important. And it's like I sort of like lifted this veil of like, oh my gosh, like this is how you were supposed to be living. Like you weren't supposed to be in this high state of anxiety 24/7 through your life. Like, and that is kind of how I was living. And so for me, like shifting into that, things like personal development and, reading became everything. I would just consume as many books on, like everything as I could in terms of like developing myself, developing my mind. And that became really important. Whereas before I was somebody who was like, it had to be about taking like really hectic action and like just being part of like Team No Sleep, like grinding all the time. But the thing is like that was pushing me further away. And I know that now because like look at what happened. Like it's not like I ever got to those goals. I manifested a burnout. Like I manifested, not being able to get there, not having the time, not getting it done because that's what I believed. Whereas now, like making that shift, like I know that everything that I do is like everything I desire is on its way to me. Everything that I do is always like in divine timing. Like I'm so supported. It's all in flow. But it was I would say not difficult, but it was just a different thing to go through. And I did definitely have moments where, and of course, like, when you're so driven like by your egoic mind for so long, it is hard. Like, when you've gone through 24, 25 years of living in one way to suddenly go, okay, well, that's like none of that's correct. Now it's time to actually shift and to start to do that. Like I did do it and I was so open to it, to be honest. Like I was just so ready. Like I would go for it with like everything that I had. But of course there are times when ego would pop up and you do have that fear or that idea of scarcity or that worry or that anxiety, and it would pop up. But the more that I kept going and the more that I kept learning and realizing that like I am not my mind, I am not ego, like that's a different version of me. I don't have to choose to align with those thoughts. The more I learned, the stronger I became, and obviously the more close I got to my higher self, and that it just became easier and easier. Like every time I would sort of flop out into that egoic thinking, I could just shift straight back into alignment so easily. And that's what the journey's been. And I think that that's one of like the most beautiful things to me is like looking at it and just seeing the difference in terms of like I used to have anxiety attacks that would, debilitate me for days or a week, like, whereas now it's like, oh, I might have like a moment, but I can like come back to it within 10 seconds, straight back into that alignment. So yeah, it's just been a gradual journey as I've gone, not without its challenges, but it's all sort of just, it's been beautiful and it's taught me a lot along the way. So
I love it. And I'm excited for you. That's just this awesome story to go through all that and just have those epiphanies and those moments. And I love how you share too about, it's not like you just made a switch and everything was good. A lot of people think that way. It's more like you said, I made the switch, but then their ego will come back and try to pry its identity back to the old ways and so forth. Yeah. Did you notice when you made that change, are you working less now than you were before and you're feeling more fulfilled and achieving what you desire?
Definitely. 100% yes.
I love that. And the reason why I asked that is because as you said, the words you said, grind and hustle, right? That's what I hear all the time too. And I got, my story is I got burnt out too at one point, got the success of what I wanted, but I was burnt and I was unfulfilled. And I was just like, This is not the grind and I don't want to know. This is icky. This is horrible. This is, as you've been saying, right? And then you make the change and you start to shift differently. And then all of a sudden my workload's like 50% less. But at the same token, I'm manifesting more of that I desire. So,
yeah.
kudos to you on that one. So let's talk. I mean, I'm a big universal law guy. I'm a very big in the manifestation law. We can talk laws all day long. So I want to jump into your aspect of manifestation, being a manifestation coach, doing the whole, your whole gig and everything. How does that work? How did, all that stuff? What's your approach to it all?
Yeah. So do you mean like how it started, or what do I do within manifestation coaching?
Let's go with the first one. How it got started.
Yeah, for sure. Well, obviously it sort of like spiraled off the back of everything that we just went through. But it was amazing because it's actually so funny because sort of as that all happened and I sort of started to learn like, oh my gosh, like I think I'm meant to be showing up in a different way. Like I think that I have a different voice to be shared. And it's funny because like, obviously, I had a massive identity around fitness and I had completely different social media accounts that had like an audience of over 13,000 people. Like I had really built myself in the fitness space in terms of like workout videos, like everything like that. And that's how I showed up online. And obviously, when you've done that and you've built your audience around fitness, to sort of make that shift into like, oh, hey, like now I teach manifestation and I want to start talking about law of attraction. There's going to be a lot of people who were there for like, how to do a deadlift who were like, this is not what I signed up for. And so I sort of battled with that for a little bit where I didn't feel aligned with talking about fitness anymore. I didn't want to be talking about macros and how to do a 6-day split and, the best form for, a sumo squat. Like I didn't want to be doing that anymore. It just didn't feel like me. Like I said, I didn't feel aligned with it. And so I knew that I wanted to sort of switch over. And obviously I needed to switch over my, social media. Like I had Instagram, I had Facebook, everything like that. And I did make the plan. Like I had this whole plan to roll out on this certain date as to like, okay, I'm going to rebrand. I'm going to change it all. I'm going to make the announcement, let people know if they don't like it, they can unfollow. That's cool. Like I know that I'll attract my new tribe. And I had the day set and I had all of the stuff, like all of the marketing, the emails, all of it ready to go. And I woke up on the day that I was supposed to be doing this, and I don't know where it came from either because I was fine the night before, but I woke up so sick, like so incredibly ill. And I don't know what it was, like whether it was like food poisoning or what, but it was something and it stopped me. And I remember just sitting on the couch and I just remember saying to myself, like, okay, universe, like apparently this is not what I'm supposed to be doing today. Like there is a reason for this. And I ended up just going on Instagram and just like sort of flicking through stories. And basically, like long story short, I ended up finding, so Manifestation Babe, if you know who that is, Catherine Zenkino, she's one of the first girls that I sort of followed in that space and I love her. And her story came up and she sort of in her story had shared that she used to be Catherine Zenkino Fitness. And I was like, are you joking? Like, how weird is that? That she used to be in the fitness space. And she shared that she had a different account and the account was still open. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, wait a sec. Is this a sign? Like, they're showing me like, okay, here's someone that used to be in fitness and now is in manifestation and does all of this stuff. You can make the shift as well. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like I'm not supposed to do this in terms of like the same account. Like I need to start a whole new business. Like this needs to be different. And I actually like just spontaneously like followed my intuition so quickly. I messaged Catherine and she's got like quite a large following. And I messaged her and I just said, hi, you don't know me, but I was just asking, just wanted to know like, you made that shift and I just sort of would love your take on it, your advice. I just have this feeling like I'm meant to be switching over, but I am letting go of obviously everything that I've built. And for someone that has the following that she has, I don't know, I sort of messaged and didn't really hold huge hope that I'd hear back. She messaged back straight away and was like, definitely, like if your intuition is guiding you to it, do it, like listen to it. It's the best thing I ever did. Like wholeheartedly go for it, like shine your light. And I was like, oh my gosh, like everything's lining up. And so that's exactly what I did. I abandoned like everything that I had thought about, like in terms of like rolling it over onto a new account. And instead I spent that day preparing and starting a whole new business. I registered a new business name. I ended up like creating new social media accounts. I announced that I was shifting everything over and I literally started from scratch. And I was so confident in doing that because I knew that I'd been so guided there. Like I just knew like, if it was meant to be that I was meant to wake up and do that, it wouldn't have been so hard. Like, waking up feeling sick and everything. And then for those signs to just sort of fall into place, I just knew like, this is what I have to do. And so I ended up just starting, a new Instagram account, which obviously at Strong Babe Collective. And I just went from there. And it's amazing because the connections that I have had with people through, especially through that Instagram account, like that's where I'm the most active. The people that I've met through there, like virtually, like I've never met them in real life, but the connections that I have with so many babes on there is unbelievable. Like I can't begin to tell you how much I'm so grateful for the fact that I made that shift, because I know that if those people had found my fitness account, it would have been sort of like out of alignment. Like, oh, do I really want to connect with this girl? I don't really know what her message is, whereas because I started from scratch, like I started fresh, and everything that I shared was about manifestation, my journey, the law of attraction, everything like particular to Strong Babe Collective, it created such an identity that people obviously like they received that energy and they felt connected to it. And from there, like what has flourished from that account has been incredible. And so I'm just so grateful that I woke up that day and it didn't go to plan, because obviously that wasn't the direction that I was meant to go in.
See, and I love that story because I always I teach a lot about people about just as you just did, be in flow, right? Don't resist and just be in flow. And if you did resist, it would have been a whole different day. But,
yeah, whole different life.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And instead you were like, okay, this is what it is. All right, universe. Because I love how you say the universe always is supporting you. And I always like to say the universe is always working for you. And Definitely. So it's one of those things that's pretty profound. And I love how the success is going. That's how my wife actually got a hold of you. She referred you to me because of all that, because she was on Instagram and she's like, hey, this woman here, I think you would be interested in interviewing. She's up your alley. And I said, okay, let me take a look. And then I was like, perfect, I got to get around. So,
I love that.
It's funny how it all works in this day and age.
Yeah, for sure.
So you started doing the manifestation. So what's your, how do you truly withhold the power you have to, well, let's get into manifestation first. How do your way of sharing or that aspect when it comes to manifesting. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So in terms of like what I do with manifestation, so basically, so everything sort of like went, like I said, like it also went in flow, and I sort of just started the Insta account and like went through that way. And then I ended up, sort of as I said, like I literally just followed everything that just started to pop up for me so easily. And then one day I just got this nudge that was like, you should do a podcast. And I was like, okay, sure. Don't know how to do that. No idea how to use a mic, no idea what I'm doing, but okay. And so I literally went out, bought a microphone, and had no idea what I was going to do with it. Didn't even know how to plug it into my computer properly. But I was like, yep, this is happening. And so I just started a podcast because I just thought it was fun. And I love to talk and to share my story and to share things that come up for me. And I sort of started doing that. And the podcast just took off. Like, for me, it was just this fun thing, but it suddenly started to be the way that people were finding me the most, and they were connecting with me the most, and they were getting the most value out of it. And the more I did it, the stronger that got. So it's the Strong Babe Collective podcast. I don't know whether you found me there or not, or just through Insta, but honestly, it just started to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And it got to a point where it is now where like I just get these divine downloads, and no matter what is going on, I will drop everything to grab my mic and to record it, because things come through for me so strongly that I know that I'm supposed to share. Like it is a message that I need to share with people. And I can't begin to tell you how many messages I get from people telling me that they had never heard the podcast before, but it came in divine timing with the message that they needed to hear. Like it was delivered directly to them. And every time I get one of those messages, like my soul feels so full, because I know that that's what I've been put here to do. Like I know that I've been put here to share that message. And even yesterday I was talking to one girl, and she said to me, I went on Spotify and I typed in something, but I typed it wrong. She said, and your podcast came up. She said, and I was like, oh, I don't know what this is. I didn't mean to type this, but let's have a look. She said, I have binge listened to every episode. She said, because the first one was like you recorded it for me. She's like, I don't know why I clicked on that. I don't know why I picked it. She said, but it was like that episode, like you were talking to me. It was so particular. And I say that on every single episode that I record, is like, I know that you are listening to this in divine timing. Like even whoever's listening to your show right now, like there's a reason that they are hearing this. There's a reason that the universe has popped this in front of them today for them to hear something that they need to hear. And so that's kind of how it all started. Like it sort of started with the podcast, and then I think like as time goes on and the more you listen and the more open and receptive you are to what the universe is delivering to you, the more that just flows through. And then basically I knew that I wanted to start teaching this. I knew that I needed to share this voice, and I knew that I needed to take it further and to actually start to teach babes what I had been through and what I'd learned, because people were asking me like, okay, like, how did you do this? How did you go from this to that? How do you do this with journaling? What's your morning routine like? How do you, move through ego? How do you get through limiting beliefs? Like, I was getting messages all the time from people asking. And so I was like, okay, like I need to figure out a way to teach this. And basically what happened was I was like, okay, I know that I need to bring this out. I want to do like some sort of like group coaching so that I can bring it to as many people as possible. How do I do that? And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I grabbed a pen and I just started writing. And journaling for me is massive. Like, it's where everything just flows out and some of my best answers come through from just watching what my hand writes. And that's exactly what happened. And I just started writing out everything that I'd been through and sort of grouping it together. And I watched as my hand wrote out, and I nearly fell off my chair, but literally wrote out the creation method, which is what I ended up, like, I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh. And basically it's over 8 weeks where every letter of the creation method is a different module. So C is your clarity, R is your rituals, E is for your energy, A is for alignment, T is for the tools, I is for your identity, O is for ownership, and N is for negativity. And honestly, like, as that came out, I was like, that's what I'm here to do. Like, that is what I'm here to share. Like, it was just this knowing inside me that like it like sent goosebumps all over. And I was like, thank you. Like, this is how I'm supposed to show up. This is how I'm supposed to serve. And I know that this is what I'm meant to bring to the world. And I just had this like sense of knowing that this was going to be huge and that this is what people needed. And basically that is what then ended up becoming my course, Desire to Manifest, which I teach over 60 days to babes that are ready to step into their manifesting power, who are ready to unlock their ability to have, do, and be whatever they want, and to learn how to manifest it. And I teach the creation method over 8 weeks, and it's incredible. And the results that it's got on my girls and everything, like, I just feel so blessed that that came through to me and that I get to share that is what I get to bring to the world. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Very powerful stuff there. I like it. Now, as manifestation and talking about that, before though, like, because everything just came through and you're in flow and you're in that state and you're trusting your intuition and things are just boom, 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 one after another, and universe like speed, right? Did you have a vision ever of like looking at, well, this is what I kind of want to do in the manifestation realm. I want to work with babes. I want to do this. Did you have any of that direction or vision within your head, or written out or on a vision board or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I always knew that I wanted to show up and I wanted to help women to sort of like empower them. And for me, so basically, like, prior to like doing Desire to Manifest, the group coaching program, I had worked with babes one-on-one, where I had done sort of one-on-one coaching, and I'd taken them through like a process that was obviously particular to them because it's one-on-one. But it was everything that I encompassed in the creation method. I just hadn't spelt it out that way. And I hadn't actually put it together in a way that was just so step by step by step. It was sort of obviously, teaching it sort of the concepts and how that applies to them in particular. But I knew that I wanted to take that on a bigger level in a way that obviously, more people, when it's obviously a group, you sort of like reach more people and you can spread that message a lot more. But even for me, like, even back in fitness, for me, empowering women was like the thing that I cared about. Like, the business that I ran was called The Fierce Project, and it was about finding your fierce. And so it was helping women to love themselves the way that they are and to feel confident in their bodies. It was never about, their aesthetics and whether they had a six pack. And, for me, like, even running that, like, I just had such a connection with the girls that I had in that business because it was all about helping them to love themselves. And we just had so much fun doing it. And the confidence that they would get would far outweigh, obviously they got great results in terms of their fitness, but that stopped being so important. And that was where that shift would happen. And so for me, it's always been important to me to empower women. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I always knew that I wanted to have a business that helped to empower women. I just didn't know in what way. And it's in going through everything that I went through that I obviously learnt about manifestation. And it's like I'd been searching for this term to give to everything that I did, and I finally found it. And it's kind of like I'd always sort of done that anyway. I just didn't have the word. And then obviously when I found the word manifestation, that's when everything sort of went to the next level. And that's when I could really obviously bring it to people in the way that they needed to hear it.
I love it. That's awesome. And when it comes to manifestation, when it comes to all that, how do you truly withhold the power you have to manifest?
So me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like for anyone, when it comes to like actually manifesting anything, the biggest thing that you want to realize is that it's already yours. So anything that you desire in this world, whatever it is that you are looking at, whatever it is that you want, whatever you're wishing for, the biggest thing that you want to realize is that it is already yours, and the universe is just waiting for you to say yes, for you to step into claiming that and shifting your energy into a state of certainty and a state of knowing that it is on its way to you. Because when you are a vibrational match for something, when your energy matches that desire because you already know that it's yours, that's when the universe delivers so fast. And that is the biggest shift. Like if there's nothing else that you take away from this, that is the thing that you want to take. Because a lot of people, they wish for things and they want for things, but when you wish and you want for something, you're affirming a lack. You're affirming that you don't have it. So you're actually focusing on the fact that it's not there. And so of course that's the energy that you put out, and you manifest more of not having it. Whereas if you shift into that energy of knowing, of having that certainty, of knowing that it's on its way to you, it is already yours, it's being delivered, and you have that without a shadow of a doubt, that's when you're in that energy of receiving, and that's when you just attract it to you so fast.
I love it. And that's exactly, we're on the same wavelengths here. So this is awesome. What do you think is one of the hardest things for people when it comes to that? Because it's, is it a fear of it being successful for them? Thinking, wow, I have this power, I have this certainty within me that, because I always say, if you can dream it, it's already possible and you can exist. Because you couldn't dream it unless it was not a possibility. So if you look at it from that perspective, why do you think some people have so much doubt in themselves then?
I think, honestly, I definitely agree with you where I think fear of success is a thing. But I think the biggest thing that people have that holds them back is the fear of it not working for them, like thinking they're like an exception to the rule, and worrying about the when and the how and the technicalities behind how it's happening, and freaking out because they think it's not happening fast enough, and worrying like, okay, well, I wanted it to happen by this point and it hasn't, so obviously it doesn't work. And yeah, I would say that is the thing that holds people back the most when it comes to actually manifesting what it is that they desire.
I agree. And it takes a little bit of an art of patience, right?
Definitely. And trust and knowing, like literally, and that's like the biggest thing where it's like, you think that you know better than the universe. Like maybe if it hasn't happened when you expected it, that's because the timing's not right and you haven't evolved into the version of you that you actually need to be to receive it. And a lot of people will sort of like shut themselves down, and you might be shutting yourself down a day early, and that thing was right there for you, but you've just literally put up this massive block because you're like, oh, it didn't happen when I wanted. It's happening. It's still coming. It just obviously something needs to line up a little bit differently.
I love it. And could individuals be whatever they want to be? Is there any limit on an individual?
Definitely no limit. 100%. Whatever, like you said, if you can dream it, you can do it. And I always say this, where the biggest thing is like, if your intuition is showing you something, it is showing you for a reason. It is not the universe like showing you like, hey, dangling this carrot. Sorry, not for you today. It's literally showing up for you for a reason, and you need to say yes to it, because that is showing you your ultimate dream life. Like whatever you want in this life, it is up to you to say yes to it and to go for it. And there are no limits. Like everything in this world started as a weird idea in somebody's head that people would have said was impossible. Even you and I talking right now using the internet on complete opposite sides of the world, somebody would have been like, oh, there's a great idea. This thing, I want to connect people. And people would be like, it's stupid. That's never going to happen. It would have seemed impossible, but they believed it. They knew it. And of course they made it happen. And same thing, like no matter what you want to do in this life, like it's possible for you. You just need to be able to say yes to it and to shift into that state of knowing.
I love it. That's a powerful message there. And it's so true in so many ways. I mean, we are the creators of our life. I mean, we are constant creators, and we can create anything we want. And we have a universe that supports us in every step of the way, which I love. So very, very awesome stuff here. So I know you brought this up with the creation method. I'd like to dive a little deeper into it. So you mentioned the acronym and what it means and so forth. You mind to dive a little deeper into the whole Desire to Manifest course?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, yeah, like I said, like obviously with the creation method, for me, when I was starting out with manifestation and trying to learn all about this, the biggest thing that I found was difficult was that everybody was talking about these concepts and these ideas around manifesting, but nobody was talking about it in a way that like gave you steps, like actual step-by-step things, step-by-step tools that you could actually go through in your life and apply to your life and actually to make it happen. It was kind of a lot of ideas, a lot of concepts, and a lot of people talking about how they did it. Like, oh, I manifested this and I manifested that, but nobody actually breaking down step by step what you actually need to do. And so for me, like when I actually wrote out those steps, like I said to you, it was like this huge just like sense of like, oh my gosh, like this is the actual method, like to learn how to manifest, not to read about it, not to hear about what other people are doing, but actually to apply to your life. And so with Desire to Manifest, I teach it over 8 weeks. And like I said, like each one of those letters is a module. So like in the first week, we do clarity and intention setting. So getting super clear with, with yourself, with the intentions that you're setting to the universe around what you expect to manifest, about what you are manifesting over the next 8 weeks, over your life, like literally getting super clear on it. Because the biggest thing is obviously when you are manifesting, if you're not clear about what you want, like how can you expect the universe to deliver? Like it doesn't know. And so like obviously we start there and then we work through every single phase of the creation method. And then within each of those modules, there are their own set of frameworks and tools, like 5 or 6 in each one, where, each one is then broken down into different things. So, in terms of like shifting your energy, one of the things that I sort of teach in there is the OCD model, where, what you do. So basically you sort of, in terms of like shifting your energy, what you're doing is you're shifting into the space of OCD. So you place your order with the universe. You have that certainty around it, and then it gets delivered to you. And I sort of give the analogy of like, think of it like online shopping. You place your order online and then you don't worry about it. You don't sit there sort of trying to figure out whether someone has packed the order, how they're going to pack it, whether they're going to put bubble wrap around it, how they're going to fly it to you. Like you don't worry about any of that. So you have that certainty, which is the C. And then of course it gets delivered to you. And so same thing with the universe, don't stop sitting there worrying. You set your intention, so you place your order, you have that certainty, you sit in that energy of knowing, and then it gets delivered or it manifests for you. And so that's just like one example of what is within each of those modules. But basically everything is broken down into a framework, into step-by-step ways of actually doing things and actually applying it to your life, so that you then have those tools, those practices, those rituals, those sacred processes that you can rely on for life. And it's honestly in those tools that, like, for a lot of my girls, like, they just make shifts day to day. Like, obviously they learn it and they make those shifts during the week. But then, a couple of weeks later, they'll be like, oh my gosh, like, I loved it so much. Like, I used flip the script today and it helped me so much in order to move from this into this and to come back into alignment and all those sort of things. So yeah, it's amazing to be able to sort of put it in a way that is so applicable to each of them, so that then they can take it and for the rest of their lives, like, they know, okay, all right, I remember this, I come back to my OCD model, or I'll come back and use flip the script, or, heaps of different things. So it just gives them actionable tools rather than just ideas and concepts.
Well, I love it too, because you're also sharing, unfortunately in the world today, we share a lot of what to do and not how to do, what to think and not how to think. And when you like for what you're doing, you're providing a lot of tools. You're not saying these are the tools you must obey by. It's like, hey, use this tool for this, or try this tool for that, or do this for this, which is more on the how instead of the what. So I give you kudos to that program and everything you're doing with that. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And it's one of those, and of course, like I said, flip the script. I worked out a lot. But the way you said ordering things, I actually wrote a book this year, and I literally talk about that. Like, you go online, you go and press purchase to order, and then you just sit back. You don't have to worry about all the processes that happen in order for it to get to you, because it's coming, like Amazon. It's going to come in 2 days.
Yes.
You got it. You don't have to worry about it, right? And so when you were saying that, I'm like, man, that sounds like that's why I wrote my book. It's kind of cool. But, great minds think alike. That's what I got to say.
Yes.
But it's so true. And people get so caught up in the how instead of just focusing on the why, the intention, and what you want to, what is it that you want to create, have, do, be, whatever it is. And then, just being certain with it. And that certainty comes in. So that's, I could go into universal laws all day, but that's just, awesome stuff there. So I digress.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it, so don't worry.
So what was your first interest in getting into universal laws? Is there like one book that you primarily would say like, wow, this was the one that really took me to this level of understanding? Or is there a couple? What would you would say that got you started getting you into it?
Yeah. To be honest, like I wouldn't put it down to one particular book. I would say that it was a real accumulation. One of the biggest things for me was I started listening to podcasts, which I didn't do prior. And that's where I started to learn. And I realized like there was this whole other world. And obviously like I came from a world where my whole Instagram feed, like everything that I associated with was fitness. And so I shifted where like literally all I was consuming was, like supplement Instagram photos and like different workouts and stuff to actually being like, wow, there's this whole other world. And so obviously that came beautifully hand in hand when I shifted Instagram accounts as well, because I had to follow people. And so I followed people more in that space of what I wanted to learn about. And so, yeah, it was from there that I then started listening to podcasts. And then I started listening to audiobooks. One of the books that I loved and that shifted a lot for me, this was very early on in the onset as well. So I'd say this probably sort of did a lot, but the Vortex was incredible. I loved that. And then sort of from there, and everybody's like, oh, like, did you read The Secret or did you like watch The Secret? And I didn't watch or like read that for so long. Like that was something that I ended up watching the movie like not that long ago, to be honest, because I think I sort of picked it all up along the way. And I actually love that I watched it a little bit later, the movie, because it was kind of like, oh yeah, like cool. Like it was kind of like reinforcing everything that I'd learned rather than that being the pivotal, that's where you learn everything, which I know for a lot of people, The Secret, especially, going back a few years, The Secret was kind of where it sort of, blew everybody's mind. Whereas for me, it was kind of this thing that sort of just put concrete on top of like, yeah, cool. I've been learning this for a while now, and it sort of just affirmed it. So yeah, it was kind of just an accumulation rather than just one particular book.
I love it. Yeah. And it's kind of cool. The Vortex is a good one. That was one of my readings earlier in my days, and it really turns the whole ballgame around. So for the listeners there, we highly recommend reading The Vortex. With that, closing in, looking at, so we talked about the book, a book. What is like one of the quotes that you have that you would say was inspirational to you or influential in your life and decisions of being where you are today? If you have one.
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. I don't know, to be honest. I don't think that I have like one particular quote that, I actually know, like now that I think about it coming to me, like one of the biggest, actually, yeah, no, I've got it. It's not a sec to come through. But one of the things that changed everything for me, and I just heard it and I was like, okay. And basically it's like act as if and so it will be. Like just realize like if you want something, like act as if it's yours and so it will be. And I say that to myself all the time. Like I say it all the time. I obviously share it in Desire to Manifest. It's something that I share all over the place, and it empowered me a lot. And yeah, I would definitely say that, especially with the journey that I've been on, like act as if and so it will be. And yeah, definitely a positive impact.
And it's so true, right? It's so true in so many ways when it comes to that. And then I was going to have one more question here, but I'm going blank on it. So I'm just going to, if it comes back, I'll put it at the end. So what is some ways the listeners can get in touch with you and how to connect with you?
Oh, yes. Amazing. Well, obviously on Instagram at Strong Babe Collective. I'm on Facebook as well with the same name. The podcast is the Strong Babe Collective podcast. But as well, I actually hold a free Desire to Manifest masterclass to sort of show people what it's like inside of Desire to Manifest, to give them a taste of it, to sort of help them to sort of see what it's like. And in there, I also share like 3 of the biggest manifestation secrets as well that have helped me in my journey. So I'd love to sort of extend that invitation to your listeners as well if they wanted to come along. It's online, it's free, you don't have to fly to Australia. But you can just access that by heading to strongbabe.co/masterclass, so you can come and grab your spot there as well. And I would love to connect with you and love to see you guys there, and definitely let me know that you've come from the show.
Awesome. And you have a podcast, yes?
I do, yes. The Strong Babe Collective podcast, my baby. I love it.
Awesome. And it's on iTunes and everything?
Yeah, on iTunes, on Spotify, and on Podbean as well. So you can access it all over the place.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Taylor, this was awesome. I appreciate having you on.
Oh, thank you so much. I have loved it. I really appreciate being on the show with you.
Yeah, you have awesome energy. I know I saw that from your Instagram page, and that's why I knew, following my intuition, that I should have you on. So I was grateful that I did that. And
definitely.
Grateful to have you here.
Thank you. I'm equally as grateful. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. For past shows, please visit www.empoweryourreality.com. I hope this show inspired you and added to your life to help you on the journey to rediscover who you really are. To connect with us on Facebook, please visit www.facebook.com/Dr. Vic Manzo. Check us out on Twitter. The handle is Dr. Vic21. Follow us on Instagram, www.instagram.com/Dr. Vic Manzo. If you were inspired by the podcast, pay it forward by sharing it with someone who you know can benefit from it. Thank you again for listening to the Mindful Experiment podcast, sharing paths to help you rediscover your infinite potential.